Welcome to Orange County Power Players, where we spotlight the personal, professional, and financial success stories of OC's top leaders. Here's your host, Danny Flores.
Welcome back to OC Power Players, where I interview some of the most successful business owners in Orange County. Today's honored guest is Jenna Gregory, zooming in from Laguna Beach. She's a mom. She's a business owner. She's an advocate. She's also an educator. Her team focuses on bringing confidence and clarity for women and their families and empowering them to feel secure. The span of Jenna's relationship management career has been in and around the commercial real estate finance and occupier industries, with a brief stint in manufacturing. She learned as a new mother that nothing is more important than protecting her family and creating a plan to set them up for success, while bringing peace of mind that she is not leaving any money on the table due to inefficient tax or investment strategies. Her love of educating others and empowering those around her to feel confident fueled her journey into financial planning. Financial health means something different to everyone. Helping her clients feel confident and secure is her goal. Bringing clarity to complexity, organizing thoughts and behaviors into actionable and accountable steps, and bringing peace of mind to those she works with is her team's mission. Welcome, Jenna.
Thank you, Danny. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So tell us. Well, you're a lot of things: a mom, a business owner, an advocate, an educator. That's a
Yeah,
lot. So,
it is.
which one do you want to start with? Maybe let's start with mom. Mom, how many
Sure.
kids,
Yeah.
and what does that
So,
look like?
I am a yeah,
What?
so I'm a mom of one so
Okay.
far. I'm hoping my motherhood journey doesn't end with just one, but I have a beautiful, healthy baby boy. He's 2 years old, with my husband. And, one of the things that really fueled my journey into being a business owner was becoming a mom 2 years
Hmm.
ago. So prior to that, I had worked alongside other mothers in the commercial real estate and finance industry.
Hmm.
And it's interesting to think back to women that I worked with or alongside as they were going through becoming mothers and working for these businesses,
Hmm.
and seeing all the things that they had to juggle. I
Right.
One of the things I actually just got off a call this morning with one of the women I used to work with who was also a mom. She's a mom of
Hmm.
three
Hmm.
boys, and she also decided to do her own business because, quite frankly, it's one of the most demanding parts of your life, and
Right.
it's one of the having more control over when you work and how you work to become efficient in your output is
Hmm.
something that mothers have to figure out how to do anyway. So being
Right.
able to apply it to your career is pretty strong and powerful. And so that's what fueled my journey into being a business owner as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment and quite a feat, because having a baby, it just takes so much of your time. That's like a full-time job right there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. And you can't do it alone. So I do have a very supportive partner who was very he took a lot of time with my son when I was doing things, and so it was a give and take, right? Doing
Hmm.
these things is a give and take, but for me in the long term, I wanted to have something where I'm going to have the freedom to go to his baseball games and be
Hmm.
at school with him and drop him off, and the things that I really didn't have when I was being raised by my parents. I was really raised by my nanny effectively. My mom and my dad both worked, and my mom
Hmm.
is she still works. She's a partner at a law firm, and she works really, really, really hard, and she did my whole childhood. And I saw what she sacrificed to do that, and I was trying to figure out a way to get all of that without doing all the sacrificing, if you can believe it. And there's never
Yeah.
a one size fits all model, but you figure
Mm.
out what you need to do. So,
Well, I'm sure your child, and if you have more, will be grateful for that, for you having more time to be there with them. And that's super difficult to accomplish.
Hmm.
I think what you're doing as starting your own business uh, allows you to have that time with your children, even though it's like draining because you're doing two things and you're in between naps and everything else that you
Yeah.
have to do. But then they'll be off to school and then you'll get a little bit easier. Um, but
Yeah,
it's always that's time you can never get back. So
absolutely.
you'll never
Ab-
regret that.
Absolutely.
Now, business wise, what do you do business wise and how do you help other people in the financial industry?
Yeah. So my mission is to create confidence and clarity in women around their financial security. So women and their families. Um, for my journey specifically, I started a career in finance in the sales sector very early on. I worked for a company that's now owned by Moody's, and I was, really making good money when I was young, but no one had ever taught me what to do with it. Um, and I always felt I felt a lot of shame around not knowing the answers to these things.
Hmm.
If I started a job, do I do the 401k or the Roth? Am I supposed to know what these options are? Am I supposed to know what to
Hmm.
do? And really, the only person I felt confident at all talking to about it was my dad, who is great, but he would start to say things, and I'd be like, "Oh, I don't understand exactly what you're saying," and then I would almost shut down. It was like an avoidance
Right,
mentality. And it didn't mean that I wasn't working really hard and making money. It just meant that I didn't feel confident in understanding what I needed to do to feel secure.
right,
And
right.
so for me, I avoided it for a very long time. And it was really my partner, my husband, who said, Jenna, I feel like you need to get a handle on this, but I don't think that me introducing you to like my buddies in the finance world, that's going to kick it because you need somebody who you can relate to. That's
Hmm.
always what I've needed is somebody who I can sit on the other, somebody can sit on the other side of the table for me and I can listen to them and I can say, wow, I've felt that same way before. Wow, I
Hmm.
feel safe in this environment to talk to you about something that really just it's not something I'm comfortable talking about. He introduced me to our financial planner at the time, who was a woman who created that safe space. And the experience I had was really eye-opening because I was like, wow, I didn't know that it could be like this. I thought it was just going to be me talking to a bunch of old white guys
Right,
in a suit talking about stocks and things that I had no idea about, right?
right.
And it wasn't. And so I realize that there's so many women and their families out there, and there's even men who feel this way, who may not talk about it, who need that safe space, who say, I really want to get a handle on this, but it's intimidating. And so much of financial planning for many folks is emotional. It's not just the math.
Right.
If finance was not emotional, there wouldn't be the markets that we have. It is a very emotional thing. And so I made it my mission when I became a mom to want to serve others in a way that I haven't
Hmm.
before. And while I was in and around the financial industry for over 10 years, I was never serving individuals in that space in the way that I felt could make an impact. And
Hmm.
so I took my own experience and I thought other people must feel this. This must
Right,
be out there. And that's
right.
what I found in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of conversations that I've had is there are a lot of women out there that are avoiding this conversation. And these are women that are partners in law firms who I had a call this morning with a partner at a public accounting firm. And you would think she's a CPA, right? Numbers.
Yeah.
But personal finance is a different game. It's a different story, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so there are so many women out there that need to just have that safe space to talk. And that's what we provide. And then actionable steps to say, what are we actually doing to achieve your goals?
Okay, yes. So you not only teach about the choices that are available,
Hmm.
but of what the outcome of each choice makes, right? So they can choose
Yeah.
the path, right? Depending on years, timeline, cash flow, whatever. I think it's different
Exactly.
for everybody, right?
It's completely different for everybody. So we're very goal focused. So when we have initial conversations with people, one of the things I want to get to know about them is where they come from and their mindset around money. What was the
Hmm.
first thing that they remember their parents teaching them? It'll help me gauge, do they have a scarcity mindset, abundance mindset? Are they savers? Are they spenders? Like, get a little bit more of the psychology of the person. But
Hmm.
then the other very important thing that I talk about before we even get to numbers, before we get to their balance sheet, their cash flow, is what are their goals? What are the things that they want to accomplish in the short term, in the midterm, in the long term? And
Hmm.
then what are they currently doing to get to those goals, right? And for a lot of the women that we talk to, they have a lot of stuff going on. Maybe they've got old retirement accounts here. Maybe they've got a few things in place from an investment perspective, or maybe not at all, but
Hmm.
they want to retire at 60, or they want to be able to fully fund their child's education and not have their child have student debt, or whatever, or they want to buy a house, right?
Hmm.
What are the things that they're really working towards? And then how do we get them to those goals in the most efficient way possible? And
Right.
efficiencies in financial planning really have to do with taxes and investments. And so what I do is I take the goals that they've outlined to me, right, their time horizons, and I also get to understand their personalities,
Hmm.
what drives them, which also will help me understand their risk tolerance to say, okay, what are the things we need to put in place for you to reach these goals? And we have planning software that will spit all of this out in a way that isn't very intuitive. And so I have to
Right.
summarize and say, how do we dwindle this down to something that you feel you can understand? Because
Right.
for women, they need 3 pages of data to feel this level of confident. A man, on the other hand, only needs like half a page of data to feel that same level of confident.
Right. Right.
Women just need more to feel more
Right.
confident.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so when it comes to financial planning, having that education on why are we doing what we're doing to get to those goals makes people feel, in particular women, feel, okay, I understand why I'm doing this. I'm not just
Hmm. Hmm.
having somebody tell me what to do. I'm
Right.
actually becoming a part of that decision in a way that
Right.
empowers me and makes me feel more confident.
Right. And I think you mentioned two things. One, the investment, but the tax consequences too. Because if they're thinking of they need X amount of dollars, let's say they're planning for retirement,
Hmm.
you have to net that out of taxes, right? So your plan has to create more cash flow than they anticipate, so it has enough money to pay taxes.
Exactly. And I think that can be overwhelming for people. So a lot of people will come to me and say, oh, I talked to another advisor. They said if I have $2 million by the time I retire, I'll be fine. And one of the things that I asked them is, did they tell you how you're distributing that to yourself in retirement over 40, 50 years, depending on however long you're going to live?
Mm-hmm.
And how much of that are you going to see, and how much of that is the IRS going to see? And what does that actually mean for the income that you're producing for yourself? Because what we specialize in is retirement income strategy and distribution. A lot of people advise on this accumulation stage, right? You're saving, 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 saving. Maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
working really hard. Either you own a business or you have an income, but then you get to a certain point where you're financially independent and you now have to create your own paycheck from your net worth.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to flip that switch into what we call distribution stage.
Mm-hmm.
And now in the distribution stage, it's a whole different ball game because you're not just putting money into the buckets, you have to now take the money out. And so people are like, wow, I have all this money in an investment account, but nobody taught me that I have long-term capital gains on this. And what does that mean? Or people are like, I'm just putting a lot of money in my 401k. I had no idea that it was taxed as ordinary income when I take it out. And people, so it's this level of education around how do I take all of the savings that I've worked so hard in my life to put together and make
Mm-hmm.
sure I see as much of that as possible when I need it, whether that's I need it in the short term, the midterm, or the long term. And that's where you can create more efficiencies in financial strategy because it has to do with that distribution back to yourself, which frankly, a lot of wealth advisors, right? We're like wealth advisors in general are paid on having a larger and larger book of business. They're paid on having more of your investments. And so they want
Right.
to teach you how to give us your investments. but it's not so clear. How do I pay those investments back to you, right? How do you take them back
Right.
to yourself in the most efficient way possible? And I think that's a miss. And I think women have recently been more skeptical if I'm talking to somebody who maybe is divorced or they are the primary breadwinner, or there's a flip in the situation where they're the ones that have to really truly understand this.
Right.
They're questioning this a lot these days, and they should be. And so that's what we're here to help them feel confident in.
That is a good question, and I think I hear you because I've heard a lot of investment advisors talk about investments and where to put them and the return, but you don't hear them talking about, okay, that's fine, but what does that look like when I start distributing, right? And then like you mentioned, the tax consequence, and that's where you have the differences between the Roths and the non-Roth accounts, and to be able to understand how, yeah, you get a little bit of a tax benefit for not going traditional, but is that really
Right.
worth it at the end? Because if you're able to really build it out, you have no tax consequence if you're in a Roth.
Right.
And just and then you hear, you sometimes you talk to somebody and they say, oh yeah, I have $500,000 in my 401k, and I kind of cringe when I hear that, because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think $500,000 does you justice. Isn't anywhere near enough what you'll need for retirement.
And I think that's what's really interesting is a lot of this has to do with what we were taught from our parents, if we were taught anything at all, because the
Mm-hmm.
401k was invented back in the 70s when federal tax rates were very high. They were in the 80s percentile. Now our
Mm-hmm.
federal tax rates are for the highest income, we're in the 30s. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, and that seems like a lot today, but think about where they were and think about what's changed in administration and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
for us, for one of the things that we focus on is not only the distribution strategy, but it's how do you create options for yourself so that when things that happen that aren't in your control,
Mm-hmm.
you can still levy the storm, right? So if
Right.
something happens and tax rates go up again, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they've been there historically. Maybe they go up again. Are you paying the piper now with a Roth on a smaller amount, or are you going to pay the piper later on a larger growth in a 401k, right? Because the whole
Right.
thought behind it is, well, you're not going to be you're going to be in a lower income bracket in retirement. And that may be true, right? You may not
Yeah.
be making as much in retirement from an income perspective, but most people don't want to take what they're spending every month, retire, and then spend half of that every month. They have a certain lifestyle they want to maintain.
Right. Right.
And so especially when every day is a Saturday, and
Yeah.
when people actually think about that, it makes a lot of sense. They're like, wait a second, no, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm banking on going into a lower tax bracket from an
Right.
income perspective. But then also, I have no idea what they're going to do with federal tax rates.
Right.
I have
Right.
a lot of clients that are like, yep, I got my retirement home in Washington or Florida, wherever I'm going to avoid state taxes, but you can't get rid of the federals. I don't think that's ever, it's one of the truths in life is that we'll always pay taxes, right?
Right.
So.
Right. No matter where you go, that they'll be right there.
Right, right, right. Exactly.
Well,
So
that's
yeah, so
that's
we
great.
do look at that a lot in financial planning, the part of it. The other part about creating options for yourself is making sure that you've looked at what happens if things don't go according to plan. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really hard to talk about. And I ask in my calls with people, what keeps you up at night? What are the things that really irk you? And especially for working mothers, female breadwinners, a lot of the ladies I talk with, it's, well, if I lose my job and my income or something happens and I can't work, like, how am I going to keep doing what I'm doing? Right. So that's all risk management. We have to
Mm-hmm.
think about what happens if it doesn't go according to plan.
Right.
And in being fiduciary comprehensive advisors, we have to look at what's called the defensive side of financial planning, not
Mm-hmm.
just the offensive side. The offensive side is that fun wealth management. Oh, I'm going to get these returns. Oh, this company's doing so well
Mm-hmm.
and I'm participating in that growth, et cetera, along with distribution strategy. But the defensive side is how do I make sure that as I'm saving this money, I don't have to draw down on it sooner than I expected because I didn't plan for something. I didn't plan for something
Right.
to happen.
Right. Right.
And that I think is a hard thing to have a conversation around. And so what I've really enjoyed with my career over the last 10, 15 years in the relationship management world and in the finance world is people have always said, well, I feel very safe with you and I feel like I can talk to you about things. And
Mm-hmm.
with finances, it's not all the fun, sexy
Mm-hmm.
rate of return stuff. It is also what happens if your spouse doesn't come home tomorrow? Where is that income that needs to be replaced, right? What happens? Those are the things that are really hard to talk about, but if you don't talk about them and something happens, it can really throw off a financial plan. And so that's where we're
Right.
also creating foundation and we're creating options should things happen. We have different levers to pull on for things outside of our control.
And that's really good that you bring that up because things that we don't plan happen, right? It could be
Yeah,
as simple as your car breaks down and you were planning on spending $2,000 on fixing it,
right?
to something more catastrophic like a spouse missing, or you lose your job and all of a sudden it's a tough job market, and
Yeah.
what do you do, right? But that's great that you've been able to develop something like this for women to be able to communicate their concerns and teach, right? Teach and provide different products. Now, as far as the products you provide, are you able to provide
Mm.
many different type of investment products to provide the growth?
Yes. So product wise, it is very individualized. So comprehensive planners, they have a bunch of different tools that they're going to use.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of comprehensive planning, we have the tools that we can execute on. Those are in the investment world and the insurance world. Those are the two
Mm-hmm.
tools that we help execute on. And then we also make sure that there's a team in place for our clients. So a lot of times I'm looking at everything and I'm asking questions, even for things that I can't execute on, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure they have those things in place. So, do they have an estate attorney? Do they have a CPA? Right? Do they have do their parents who are getting older have their estate planning done? Because that's going to affect you and your generation. So I'm asking those deep questions and making connections to other people that I trust. We
Mm-hmm.
have relationships in Orange County and relationships outside of Orange County and in the nation to make sure they have those things. And then in terms of the tools that we use in financial planning, they're the investment tools and the insurance tools. So I'm licensed on an insurance perspective to broker out any of the 100 of insurance companies that we can get access to, but
Mm-hmm.
I hold a license with Northwestern Mutual because then I get access to their insurance products.
Okay.
If you don't hold a license with Northwestern, you can't get access to their products. So
Okay.
because Northwestern has the best financial rating on their insurance products and they have the best, in my opinion, customer service in terms of claims, I want my
Mm-hmm.
clients to at least get access to it, even if
Right.
we can't, if for some reason my clients get denied, I have everything else in my back pocket where we can broker out other insurance products. On the investment side,
Mm-hmm.
we have access to all the funds. We don't have proprietary funds that we are being pushed, right? So there's a ton of companies out there that are great financial companies and they have great funds. And when you look at a mix of portfolios and what you're looking in, they're going to be showing like, hey, if you're in Fidelity, I'm gonna give you a Fidelity fund. If I'm at Schwab, I'm gonna give you a Schwab fund, right? And that's perfectly fine. They have great funds. But what I like about our platform is we pick the best of the best funds, mix them up in your portfolio so that if you want access to fixed income, you can do a PIMCO fund, right? They're great
Mm-hmm.
in the fixed income space. But if you want access to a large cap fund, like you can do BlackRock, they're really good in that space. So you have access to all the different funds, and I'm not handicapped by the company in terms of what we're doing. We're really our portfolio managers research and make sure that you're getting the best of the best. So in terms of investments and insurance, it's all very customized to what it is the client needs.
Mm-hmm.
But the nice thing is that we have options outside of, we have options that are going to create what's best for the client. Because as a fiduciary, I hold not only a moral standpoint to do what's best for my client and their best interest, but legally,
Mhm.
I have to do that as well. And so having options to the best of the best on both sides makes me feel empowered to get my clients the things that they need.
Right. No, no, no. That's perfect because, like you said, you're not tied to one specifically. You're tied. You
Yeah,
want to go with the best of the best, which
right.
gives the best results. As we wrap up our interview, I mean, you've given us so many great tips and things that you're working on. What does the next 6 to 12 months look like?
Um, so that's a great question. I've grown my team, so I'm continuing to hire and build out a group of people whose values and mission are aligned with mine. And so I
Mhm.
will say that if there's any people who are looking to get into financial planning, who think this is something that's of interest. Our team is growing. We want to be able to serve more and more people. And so, as a busy working person, not only do I have to figure out how to delegate within my household, in terms of who's picking up my son when and whatever that's happening, but we have to do it on the business side as well. And
Right.
so that's one thing that I'm very excited about. I have a great team in place today, and
Mhm.
just continuing to grow that and creating a space for people to continue to work alongside my business,
Mhm.
to serve others. And then really just to be reaching more and more women. I've done a number, this is, a great forum. I've done a number of talks and a number of things throughout. I'm hoping to start doing a little more travel as my son gets a little older, and
Mhm.
I was invited to speak to the MBA program at a very prestigious school in New Hampshire, and so things like that. I want to be able to do more of that and get out there because my favorite part of this whole thing is meeting and getting in front of smart people that are just trying to do the right thing, just trying to
Right.
feel better about what they're doing. They work really hard and they're just trying to do the right thing. So,
Right. Right. We're all trying to figure it out, right, on a daily
exactly.
basis.
Right.
But thanks so much, Jenna, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and your tips on what you're doing. If there was somebody who's listening and wants to get a hold of you, how
Yeah.
could they get a hold of you?
So I'll give you my email, but another really easy way is if you just put in Google or your search bar, Jenna Gregory, Northwestern Mutual, my website pops up and you can submit an inquiry on the website.
Mhm.
Or you can email me at jenna.gregory@nm.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Jenna, for coming on. And to our audience, please go to ocpowerplayers.com and follow us on your favorite channel. Thanks so much, Jenna.
Thank you, Danny.
Thanks for listening to Orange County Power Players. Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at ocpowerplayers.com/guest.